What's up, gamers? DreamcastGuy here, talking today about Halo Infinite on the Xbox Series X, because I have been playing the newest beta test that's going on during the course of this weekend. Now, we need to start things off with just a gigantic warning label, which is that this game is obviously incomplete. This is a beta test. It's not even coming out for an additional 2 months, but even in this current format, I kind of love Halo Infinite's multiplayer. Now, I do think it's important to note here that I am using the word multiplayer because the previous beta they did was against bots. It was just a chance to test out some guns against what were essentially just moving target dummies. This weekend, we have actual PvP, some real player versus player combat. Every single kill you see in this video is against actual real players who are doing their best to survive. And this was a much better chance to test the balancing, the graphics, the frame rates, and really just how good these maps are designed. And top to bottom, I kind of really dig what they're doing with Halo Infinite. This feels kind of like classic Halo with a couple downsides mixed in that I do want to talk about. Now, something that really kind of just grabbed my eye is that this feels like a much more polished and finished project compared to a lot of the trailer footage we saw, or even against the previous betas. This game is much more stable, the assets look much more clean, and even stuff just like environmental background art is definitely much more refined. And perhaps the most vital aspect of this new, more finalized version of the game is the fact that the weapons feel much better tuned. Now let's talk about the ins and outs of this Halo Infinite beta. This weekend specifically, we're getting a series of 4v4 death matches. Now, next weekend, they said they're going to be doing the first of Big Team Battle, which sounds intensely awesome because I do love me some Halo vehicles, but this 4v4 playlist, I feel like the thing that kind of struck me first and foremost is how these maps actually play. Now, these are a lot of repeats from the previous betas, but I think that these courses, initially, they felt a bit tiny. They felt slightly small when I was going against bots, mostly because they were just so incredibly dumb. But now, having real players trying to tuck themselves into random corners and ambush you with a shotgun or a gigantic rocket launcher, these maps definitely feel better for the 4v4 playlist. Now, throughout the course of these, there were only just 3 maps that are playable today. They're probably going to unlock more down the road, but even just this opening window of playing it, everything in it is very nicely tuned. The major lesson I learned during the course of this beta was definitely the fact that time to kill is incredibly short. Now, typically in Halo games, you have a bit of a chance to react. A lot of times it's hit and run, try and throw a grenade or do a melee attack and step around to the corner before they can retaliate. I mean, that's normally how it goes. It feels like this is a little bit of a faster paced Halo in general. Not a ridiculous amount, but you can sprint, you can do power slides, and there are a lot of hidden super weapons randomly popping up across the map. But even if you don't manage to pick up one of these super rifles or something, you can drop people relatively quick. It's not like a one-shot kill or anything like that, but once your shields are down, if something enters your forehead, you're going to get turned into creamed gravy. And I kind of dig this. It kind of makes this interesting sense of risk and reward that I haven't felt in a Halo game in a bit. Sometimes I feel like Halo games have a little bit too long of a time to kill. It sort of reminds me of Gears of War, where it takes quite a few direct body shots to put somebody down. But this one, it feels like that nice balance. Now, I do want to talk a bit about the aiming in general. This feels incredibly fantastic. My favorite Halo is Halo 1, but objectively, I think the best Halo of all time is probably Halo 3, with its gadgets, its great balancing, and its very, very sharp aiming in general. Well, during this gameplay segment, I wanted to try and just test out every single weapon. Literally, I grabbed every weapon in the game, every grenade, every gadget, and tested them all out. Well, one of the things that's cool is that they added in a target range where you can just pick up anything and do these weapon challenges where you have to try and take down a certain amount of NPCs as quickly as possible. And while doing things like learning to scope the sniper rifle or using this heavy LMG machine gun and stuff like that, you really grow to appreciate the speed of the aiming itself. This feels like a very, very smart mix from classic Halo and new Halo. It feels like something that is modernized and classic simultaneously. But this does bring me to some of the gripes I have just in general. well. I like the aiming, I like how the guns are actually balanced, but some of these gadgets, these toys you can pick up, do not feel incredibly useful. Like, I liked Halo 3 because there were just special things that could be like a bubble shield, which will guard you from damage. There was things like a shield drainer or jump boosts. Like, there was a lot of stuff in Halo 3's multiplayer that made it feel exciting whenever you picked up a gadget. Some of the stuff you get in this, I did not particularly care for. Like, some of these like shields you can drop, I mean, they just feel kind of useless. The only 3 items in this entire beta that I gave a crap about picking up was the grapple hook, which, I'll be honest, is very fun to swing around with. I did enjoy overshield, because obviously it's just a ton of shields, so you can take a bunch of extra damage, and the invisibility, which feels definitely like one of the best of all the gadgets. The fact that you can walk around pretty much Predator invisible is pretty dang fantastic. I mean, I'm literally punching people in the back of the head, and they have no idea what's going on. I guess I just wish that there was more of a mix of crazy stuff in there. I wish that there were like more exciting toys for the toolkit. The super weapons are great. Whenever there is a rocket launcher or a huge laser cannon that drops onto the map, everybody is excited to run for it, compete for it, kill each other for it. Like, that is fun. But whenever there's like a gadget popping up, it seems like a lot of players kind of just ignored it, myself included. But perhaps there's going to be like bigger, more useful items in the future when the real game comes out. Now, the other thing that was just a bit strange was the radar. Like, so obviously in Halo games you have your very minimal radar down in the corner. In fact, a lot of Halo people talk about training yourself to always be watching the radar because of how useful it is. They call it training your third eye. Well, this time around, it's weird, but the radar feels incredibly limited. It seems like you can only see or detect things about 10 feet in every direction. So what I ended up doing is just occasionally glancing at it to see if somebody was like above me or below me on these very vertical maps, but for the most part, I kind of just ignored it. Like, it was more useful to just keep my eyes open and my finger on the trigger and wait for the next person to come around the corner so I could easily blast them. It just feels like the radar is too short-sighted. Like, it feels like it's just so contained that it doesn't really serve a great purpose. Now, perhaps it'll also be bigger when it comes to things like big team battle. Maybe it adjusts due to the game type, but as it stands now, not super useful. For the most part, this has been an incredibly fun beta. I like the new guns. I really enjoy these maps a lot, especially against other players, and it's really kind of fun to just see people really scrapping it out. It has that really like high energy, high intensity that classic Halo became so addictive about. Like, it feels so much like old school Halo coming back with a fresh coat of paint. Graphically, it's nice, the frame rate is nice, and the gameplay itself is very, very furious. I enjoyed the hours I spent with it. Now, I do want to say that there have been some funny glitches you might see going around, because the Halo community is already just playing the heck out of this game. So you're going to see stuff like people have discovered that if you melee somebody, switch guns, and press melee a second time, you can instantly do multiple punches simultaneously, which is pretty much an instant kill. There's also been some very strange errors popping up, like grenades will randomly duplicate items, so grenades will make it where you get multiple floor signs piling up to the ceiling. Now, I'm not particularly concerned for stuff like this, because for the most part, this game is coming out in 2 months. They have time to patch this. They've already very publicly stated that this is a feature-complete experience. They're just trying to polish, they're just trying to tweak some numbers, they're just trying to make sure that Halo Infinite is ready for the big baller launch day. This beta has been incredibly successful at building up my hype. I've been wanting more stuff to play on my Xbox Series X, and this looks like it's going to be, well, a real game that we're going to be talking about for months and months to come, at least I hope. But what do you think? Have you had a chance to play the Halo Infinite beta? And more specifically, in the comments down below, if you decided to play this on PC, the Xbox Series S, or the base Xbox, I'm curious about your experiences. I'm curious how it's been different, better, or worse than mine has been. Well, anyways, thanks so much for watching, gamers. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up, share with your friends, and subscribe if you haven't already. But do me the biggest favor of all, and keep dreaming. Man, I really hope the story is good, because if this has a great campaign, Ooh, I think we're going to be talking. I think we're going to be having some heavy talks about Halo Infinite at the end of the year. Thanks so much for watching that video. If you want to see something else, you can always click this link to see what I put up last, or, subscribe and see what's coming up next. Also, I promise that whatever I do, it'll try not to suck.